Uchasaneb, and welcome to the Maā podcast show, powered by the Maā Sa Society. In this podcast, we'll explore the Maā Sa philosophy, the age of Aquarius consciousness, culture, and the restoration of your spiritual authority in your everyday life. Today, we're going to talk about confidence in self, the source of life power, and how it's important for you to really solidify yourself in self, to feel power in self, to bring power from self. It's very important for you to establish yourself in self. You know, we've been existing in this world for the last 500 years. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the last 2,000 years, being engineered or re-engineered to manifest in a state of subservience and dependence. We've been trained to be dependent upon systems outside of ourselves for our success. Those who ran those systems benefited from you being dependent upon the systems that they promoted. And that dependence could have been taken advantage of, if you will, could have been low labor, deflection of lower class, middle class people from those ethnicities, deflecting their interests from the true people that control things, source of deflection, which means a source of, foundation of violence and all types of systemic racist systems and things of that nature. We could talk about that all day. But we've been re-engineered to stay in our space and serve the needs of those managing and controlling us. That's what we've been engineered to do. So that's why confidence in self has to be reestablished. That's why it's important for us to have this conversation, because we have to now go through a self-identity revolution. We have to go through a self-identity re-engineering. But in this current system, we find ourselves in perpetual limitations. We find ourselves going through repeated cycles of suffering. We find ourselves in constant conflict and discord towards those in our environment, thus lowering our productivity, limiting our prosperity. You see, because in this system that we exist in, that we're going to talk about today, you can't exist in conflict and be prosperous. So if you're combative, conflictive, if you're finding yourself in conflict with the other people, it's very hard for you to find productivity in that space. But see, one of the major reasons why you are in constant conflict and discord is because you are functioning from a state of dependence and servitude. You're trying to, by force, get the system to take better care of you. That's what you're trying to do. So in the concept of racism, which we spend a lot of time talking about for the last month or so, when you find yourself as a means of being successful in and of itself, when you find that your success in and of itself, I want you to listen to me carefully. When you find that your success in and of itself is dependent upon forcing something outside of you to take better care of you, then you know you are in dire straits. You know you are in a position of deep dependence and servitude. When you're asking the system and its people to serve your needs versus you serving your own needs. And I want you to think about what you're asking. Because this is why we got to have the conversation. That's why we got to have this conversation about confidence in self, the source of life power. But this is what we're asking. Now, mind you, you've heard me say many times before, and I'll say it again. Not all white people were racist, but all white people took advantage of racism. Not all white people are racist, but all white people benefited from racism. So what you're asking is this. You're asking a system built by white people for white people. You're asking them right, who have benefited from this system. Now, they might not be racist, but they benefited from the system. What you're asking them is to change the system to not benefit them as much as it has benefited them so that it could benefit you more. That's essentially what you're asking. And I want to be clear for you, that's a hard ask. People who have benefited from the way the system is. Now, you might get some people who are more compassionate than others, show compassion towards you. As that expression of supremacy, we said, right, the left side of the supremacy coin and the right side of the supremacy coin, we talked about many times. They might show compassion, help you out, but they are still within the collective system benefiting from racism. So what you're asking them, people who are benefiting from this system, you are asking them to change the system that is benefiting them to support your greater good. And I'm telling you, that is a hard ask. Why you think all of a sudden now political importance is shifting from black people to the Hispanic community? Because they're looking simply as looking for a new vessel of dependence and servitude. But anyway, this is how we've been raised. So when you're in discord and conflict, when you're finding yourself, the way you're going to take care of yourself is by fighting, right? Getting into arguments, bickering against the system, fighting the system, asking the system to take care of you. When the pilot of that system is benefiting from the way the system is, you're asking that pilot to change it for your benefit. I'm telling you, that's a lose-lose situation. More than likely, it's not going to happen. What you're going to get is some type of scheme, people talking out the side of their neck, people saying what they're going to do on this side, but never do it. Oh, by the way, that's politics. So if you find yourself fighting for your rights, which were what you were born into, more than likely that's not going to happen. I'm just letting you know that. So when you find yourself fighting racism and constantly fighting to improve your condition, you're not asking to change yourself. You're not asking to change the way you behave, organize yourself to empower yourself to a point where you can force the system to change for you. No, you're constantly fighting this system that has benefited a specific ethnicity. And I feel as though it's important for me to say this as well. Racism is not owned by white people. It just so happened that white people are in a position of power. Whenever there is a tribe, I don't care if that's a black tribe, I don't care if that's a Hispanic tribe, I don't care what it is. Brown tribe, I don't care what it is. If you have a tribe that's in a position of power, that is a self-identifying tribe, eventually through time, that tribe's needs, goals are going to conflict with yours. Eventually, they're going to start making decisions that empower them, but may not empower you. And eventually we'll go down the same situations that we're experiencing now. That some of those things you see in Africa today. So it's just simply about people being in the position of authority and you being in the positions of dependence from these people. That's the cause of all your problems. Racism is founded upon dependence. Racism is a virus and it needs its host to be in a state of dependence. And the reason why you're in a state of dependence is because you have no confidence in self. And the system that puts you in this position wants to take away your confidence in self, to keep you in a perpetual state of dependence, to make you susceptible to racism. So I want you just to understand this before I move on to my next point. if you are fighting something outside of yourself, trying to get that thing to change for your behalf or for your benefit, that is a foundational way you know that you are still a slave mentally and that you're in a deep state of dependence, which means you're going to always be susceptible to racism. Now, I want to talk about some things today because I use the podcast. You know, the podcast is different from the Maā Sa Sunday service of meditation. And by the way, if you haven't downloaded the app, please download the app and join us every Sunday live, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. You know, I get more of an opportunity to talk about things, kind of keep it real type moment here on my podcast. So the podcast is always different from the Sunday meditation service. But anyway, as we go down this road of life, we have to realize that eventually we have to organize, come to an agreement, and implement through a sense of self-identifying tribal commitment that we all agree upon. That's where we're going. That's what we have to do in order for us to make it to the next phase. But anyway, I want to keep it real. Everybody remembers, a few years ago, the whole defund the police movement and, how people went out and tried to defund the police, but realized that, no, you need the police. So that political agenda was thrown out pretty quickly. But here's the problem. I'm talking to the Black community here. See, the problem is we don't have confidence in self, which means we don't have self-agency. And when you don't have self-agency, you don't have self-restraint. So in order for you to get rid of the police, truly get rid of the police, you must increase confidence in self. And from increasing confidence in self, you must increase self-agency. And then once you increase self-agency, you'll increase self-restraint. So if you or your people cannot manage themselves and hold themselves accountable to various principles necessary for success and harmony, then you'll always be in need of a police force. And by the very nature of policing, that scheme, if you will, the way that policing manifests, as the West Africans say ashe, we say sa, the essence of being a police officer favors the white vibrational energy. So if you're going to always be in the dependence of policing because you have no self-agency, you have no confidence in self, then you're going to also be under the authority of white people because that energy does well policing. So if you're trying to truly end the need of policing, you must first reorganize and galvanize your people around confidence in self so that they can have the self-agency and the self-restraint to not have to be managed by external forces. So that's what we're talking about today. So if you're going through a political agenda fighting the police department because they have to manage our people, because they have to manage Black and brown people, and there's a need to be managed, then you are still dependent upon those systems, regardless of whether the people that are operating within those systems are racist or not. That's why reestablishing ourselves in confidence in self is extremely important. So anyway, I just thought I wanted to share that with you because I think that's something that we really need to understand. As we get out here and fight things outside of ourselves for our own benefit, that's impossible. We have to solve the 90% households run by single mothers. We need to resolve that. See, you guys are spending too much time making sense of it, pointing the finger, accepting it, readjusting yourself when everybody deep down inside knows that is incorrect, that children need both parents. But we move forward trying to find some type of foundation in this quicksand. And then we're blaming things outside of ourselves. No, we got to solve the male-female relationship issue. You say, well, it wasn't our fault that we're in this place. That's okay. I understand that. That's a circumstance that we endure. But we have the power to overcome that. So we have to have real conversations founded upon real understanding that, yes, kids need both their mother and father. It doesn't make a woman look bad. It doesn't make a father look bad. It doesn't make a single mom look bad. It just says that she cannot provide everything that child needs. And therefore, we pay the price because children grow up without any control. And now with this sense of entitlement that's within our kids now is killing our, kids when they interact with any form of authority. Whether that be in the public school, in the school system, whether that be on jobs, whether that be in the, dealing with police, whether that be with any authority. And so therefore, our kids are going into the world now, Generation Z, suffering. Right? Cancer is increased 300%. They can't hold jobs anymore. Mental disease is at a heightened 50% increase in suicide. And, they said something like 60% of kids report anxiety and depression disorders. Why? Because they're not being engineered within the household to be able to deal with life. And the reason why that is because we are 50% deficient in that household. So we have to have these conversations. And that's what we feel as though the Maā Sa is going to do. The Maā Sa is going to put you in a position where you can now get agreement, get understanding, and now develop your confidence in self. So let's end with this. The affirmation of the Maā Sa society states that I am the source manifesting through the limitations of the mind as self. It says, I am the source manifesting through the limitations of the mind itself. You see, Maā-t, what you call the universe, we call Maā-t. We say that Maā-t came into manifestation for our benefit. So therefore, we are the source manifesting through the limitations of the mind itself. Source brought Maā-t into manifestation for its benefit. Then source transitioned itself into the vehicles of all things, finding its highest expression in man and woman. So therefore, we can say that Maā-t manifested for our benefit. But the benefit of what? That's why we have to affirm that we are the source manifesting through the limitations of the mind itself. So Maā-t manifested for the benefit of self. So therefore, if you understand that Maā-t manifested for your benefit, and that this system of supreme intelligence actually is here to serve you. You don't serve this system. It's here to serve and support you. It was brought into manifestation to bring you into the experience of prosperity and abundance. That's why we say confidence in self is the source of life power. It manifested for your benefit. You brought into manifestation for your benefit. Now, why is that important for us to understand? Because you got to understand that the suffering that you're experiencing right now, the constant discord and conflict, the low productivity and low prosperity, the limitations that you are experiencing, that is not what this system was wired to do. You've been tricked to think that something outside of you not only has control over the good, but has control over the bad. And therefore, you are fighting and develop a mindset and not developing confidence in yourself and how to adapt yourself to be in alignment to Maā-t so that you can bring your own life, abundance, and prosperity into manifestation. You see, it's through Maā-t, the supreme intelligence, we get an understanding of how to bring harmony within ourselves, how to bring harmony within our community, how to end the conflict and find our place for prosperity and wealth according to a singular agreement. See, the supreme intelligence, there's only one supreme intelligence, which means there's only one truth. Once you understand that one truth, how it manifests throughout your life, then you come to an agreement. Therefore, you come to an accord, and therefore you come to power. And once you come to power, you find your space of prosperity and abundance without depending upon someone else providing it for you. I hope this conversation helped you today. If it did, feel free to forward this conversation to other people, let them know about it. Also, feel free to download our app. Feel free to go to our YouTube channel and check out our YouTube page and subscribe to that. And also, let's continue to work with the Maā Sa. Let's continue to do our affirmations. It's beneficial that you do the affirmation at least 5 times a day as you re-engineer yourself to have confidence in self and help other people around you find their confidence in self, so that we can come to that agreement we need to bring about prosperity and abundance in our community. Ucha Saneb, Sa Maā.